And now I'd like to call to order the September 4th, 2019 formal City Council meeting. Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Here. Councilmember Garcia. Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor. Councilwoman Stark. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Waring. Mayor Gallego.
Here. We have an interpreter here today. Mario, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. My name is Mario Barajas. I'm going to be making a brief announcement in Spanish to our Spanish speakers. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mario Barajas. Voy a estar sirviendo como el intérprete de esta tarde. Si acaso necesitará alguien un intérprete de español, podrán acudir hacia el miembro de personal de la ciudad de atrás, hacia Sergio o a Nick, para poder proveerles los aparatos para la interpretación. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would the City Clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances numbered G6612, 6617 through 6625, S45990 through 46003, and resolutions 21777 through 21778.
Thank you. Next, we move to item number 1, boards and commissions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Move to approve Mayor and City Council Board and Commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signal by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We do not have any individuals here today to be sworn in, so we will next move to items 2 through 10.
Move to approve items 2 through 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve items 11 through 46, except the following. Items 17, 24, 32, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46. Noting that item 18 has been continued to September 18th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
So
Roll
moved.
call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia. Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously.
So we already voted.
Right. Next, we move to item number 17, the canvass of the votes. Thank you to our city clerk and city staff for running a great election. With this motion, we will move forward with canvassing the election results from last week. We did receive the results recently. Proposition 106 failed in every single consolidated precinct in the city of Phoenix, and Proposition 105 failed in 123 of 125 consolidated precincts. To me, this is a credit to our city employees and a confidence in our budget process. So 66% of voters supported our existing budget process over the alternative. We had robust debates on both of these items, and I'm committed to moving forward and working with people regardless of what side you ended up with on the vote. But I think strong results and support for the work we are doing at the City of Phoenix, and thank you to the council members who worked on this debate over the summer. Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor, and I echo your sentiments. But as you know, I'm a big supporter of consolidated elections, but I have to say, this August election, we had almost 26 turnout for a proposition election, and that's pretty impressive for Phoenix. Hopefully we can get more people engaged in our elections, but I am impressed in August that we got 26% turnout. Mayor, I think it might have been better than your elections, I'm sorry to say.
It was significantly better.
But kudos to the public for getting out and voting.
We had a lot of people who worked hard to engage individuals and go door to door, and it's certainly a credit to them that people came out. I shall try to take it not personally that more people voted in the ballot elections than in the mayoral election. And it was a higher Republican turnout as well in the August election. And probably worth noting, we had very similar results in the most Democratic precincts and the most Republican precincts. Councilmember Garcia.
Yes, same. I want to congratulate folks on both sides, and I think it was a great election. I do specifically for the light rail, the South Central Light Rail expansion, want to reach out to some of the business owners and the folks that might have been on the yes camp, and make sure that as a city, we look into how we communicated with folks before we made the decision and work with them to make sure that as the light rail expansion moves forward, that they're being taken care of, and that they're a part of the construction process.
Councilmember DeCiccio.
Congratulations to those that won. I mean, it was a tough fight. It was an uphill battle, but at the end of the day, the voters made their decision, and I think as a public body, I think we need to always respect that. And still from my end, I'd still like to reach out, and there are a couple issues that are out there that I think that we still are going to need to address. One are the pensions, and I'm willing to work with anybody that would like to address that. I think that that's going to be a problem. We have a problem every single year where the pension costs become more and more expensive, and we've got to have a plan other than what we have right now, I believe, to do and fix this pension problem before it becomes a problem. The best time to fix anything, the best time is when you have a strong economy. It's harder when you've got your head into a wall and you don't have very many options. Now we have a lot of options. On the light rail, I was hoping that the voters would prefer roads over light rail, but they made their decision, and I respect that. And matter of fact, whatever it is that the voters are going to want, they're in charge. They're our boss. And Mayor, I've got to thank you for your leadership on that. You're amazing. You're definitely a force in the city of Phoenix. You are. You win everything by 60-some%. I don't know how you do it, but that's a big number. Last time, if you remember the election, when it came to the 104 vote, it was a lot closer. I think it was like 2 to 4 points. And this was a wipeout, and it was. And I think a lot of it had to do with your leadership and your vision for the city of Phoenix. We don't always agree on some things, and we don't have to. But at the end of the day, I respect you. You've been a very cordial individual. You've always been open. I mean, I think she's the first mayor ever to call me on multiple issues. This is something people don't understand that happens. This Mayor Gallego has been an individual who's called me on a pretty regular basis, at least once a week, asking me for my advice, my input on things, and then I would be able to lay out why I felt a certain way and she felt a certain way about things, but I've never seen that happen before, and I think that's because of your leadership, and I think that showed in this election. If there's a possible way we can consolidate these initiatives so that when a citizen does an initiative, it doesn't have to be on a different clock. If there's a way I could ask staff to kind of look into it and let me know how it can be done. But to move those initiatives to a general election, I think as a city we'd be better off. It'd be something where you engage a larger volume of the public. I think 26% is a lot for the city of Phoenix, but it's still low when it comes to terms for a lot of other things. And, you know, I think the more people we engage, the bigger it is, you know. But at the end of the day, that's not an excuse. It's not a reason or anything else. At the end of the day, you know, I think your side would have prevailed, and it did. And congratulations.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just want to thank all of the voters that came out and voted. I know that at least in District 5 and probably also in District 8, there was a lot of voter fatigue. Just because there are too many elections, one after the other, for almost 2 years. And it was great to see the numbers, great to see 26%. We still have a lot of work to do in order to increase that number, but given that it was an August election and it was hot out there, and I think the numbers were great, and I just can't wait to see the type of numbers that we will have in the following elections. And I just want to thank everyone. It was a great election. It was great work. I think it's time now for everyone to come together and for all of us to figure out how do we respect the small businesses and how do we make sure that they keep thriving as we keep expanding the light rail. And then at the same time, we figure out solutions for our pension problems that we're also facing. And I know that this body, everyone on the council is committed to doing that, and I'm very excited and happy to be part of this team and how we make all of these things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nowakowski.
Well, Mayor, first of all, congratulations and thank you. The other thing is, there's over 300 small businesses along Central Avenue, and I just want to make sure that you all know that we as the City of Phoenix are supporting you. We have resources that are out there. Our staff are knocking on your door on a monthly basis, explaining all those different resources, so take advantage. Take advantage of the resources and the programs that the City of Phoenix has for all those small businesses that are out there. The other thing, too, is that all those individuals that supported the initiative, it's so important. It's so important that now that we have a light rail going to South Phoenix, that we also support the businesses in South Phoenix. So if you happen to live in the north side or the east side or the west side of Phoenix, come on down to South Phoenix and have some good food. That we have some great Mexican restaurants out there. We have all kinds of small businesses out there. Now's the time that we should use the Team Phoenix approach, where we all come together and support one another. And we need to support these small businesses during this construction period of time. And we as the City of Phoenix will do our best, but we also need the citizens and the residents of the City of Phoenix to come out and support those small businesses too. Thank you.
Councilwoman Pastor.
So I'm very thankful and grateful for all the voters that participated. Yes or no, I am just grateful of the fact that there was participation in the election. And the fact that it's taken, this will be the 4th count that we do for light rail, and hopefully we will now recognize that the City of Phoenix and voters are supporting light rail and transportation in general, because it's not just light rail, it's transportation all across. It includes our roads, it includes safety on our buses, and light rail includes all this bigger package that goes along with transportation. So I'm thankful for that. I also, it was an interesting race because I had family and friends that were divided in South Phoenix, and understanding the fact that change is happening. We also discussed past history on how South Phoenix also was very stagnant in the sense of wouldn't get services for a very long time. And now when services are coming and connectivity is coming, sometimes it's really hard for us to change and embrace. But by embracing change doesn't mean that all businesses will be gone or won't survive. What that means is that all of us who sit at this dais will need to create an effort to help support those businesses so that they are in survival, not in necessarily survival mode, but they're in thriving mode. And so I spoke to Salvador Reza, who was on the Yes campaign, and we spoke, and we're friends. I grew up with Salvador, and I was around, and he says, Laura, now that it's where it's at, we need to come together and we need to help. And so I am committed, and I talked to the city manager, committed to help those businesses, especially during the times where construction is going through, and figuring out how we can help, not only by our business program, but in other many ways in order for them to thrive during that time. So I'm appreciative of the way the outcome happened. I want to thank all my colleagues that were out there with us, raising money, knocking on doors, making sure Field is out at the doors, making sure that we're at every neighborhood event. It took a whole team of us, and we made it. So I'm thankful for that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to thank the voters for coming out en masse. I would like to say for the north area, we are very excited that we will now have it go over I-17 and be arriving at Metro Center, because we feel very strongly that to keep Metro Center alive and growing, it needed to get over there. So I promise Councilman Nowakowski, once the train's there, we'll go up Metro Center and come to your restaurants in South Phoenix. So we're very excited. Now I just want to thank the mayor for her leadership, Councilwoman Pastor and Councilwoman Stark. I know they put a lot of time and effort into it, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Councilwoman Stark and Councilwoman Pastor co-chaired the successful campaign and spent a lot of their time this summer having a debate about our city's future. So thank you for your time. I think we are better off for having had the dialogue, and we are very much committed to having the best business assistance program we have had as we have developed any of the light rail extensions, taking everything we've learned in the past and moving forward in a successful way. With that, does anyone have a motion on item 17, the canvass of the votes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Waring?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. We next move to item 24, digital microwave terminals.
Mayor,
Councilman Nowakowski.
potential conflict on this one?
Move to approve item 24.
We have a motion and approval. Roll call, noting that Councilman Nowakowski will not be participating in the vote.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Williams? Waring?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. My motion passes 8-0. We next move to item 32, retrieval and relocation of electric scooter service contract. Councilwoman Williams chairs our Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee. Councilwoman.
I had a question, and if Mario, could you come up? At the last transportation meeting before break, we approved this item, and it said there would be no cost to the city. Yet on today's agenda, you show close to $100,000 that would be used. Could you explain? I know we talked about it this morning, but I want everyone to be assured that there's a logical, reasonable answer.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Williams. The item before you today on the agenda is an item to approve a contract for the retrieval of any scooters that have not been collected, have not been properly parked as part of our downtown pilot program, and that haven't been collected by the scooter companies within the 2-hour limit that we provide. So the city is hiring this company to go retrieve those scooters if they've gotten to that point, and this contract will allow us to do that. But what's important to clarify here is that we will then charge the scooter companies an $80 fee for each scooter that's collected that will be used by the city to cover those costs, as well as any additional staff time that's involved. The fees have been set for the retrieval. We also set fees overall for the program, for the permits, and for the parking infrastructure that were put in place downtown to recover all of those costs. So none of this has any cost impact to the city.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Thank you. Yes, we need a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor? Stark? Williams?
Yes.
Waring?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Motion passes 9-0. We next move to item 42, infrastructure improvement plans. We will begin with the staff report from our Planning and Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Item 42 is a public hearing for the draft land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans. This is just a public hearing. There's no action required on this item pursuant to state statute. Development impact fees require cities to review and update development impact fees at least every 5 years. Impact fees are assessed on building permits within designated new development areas to help pay for certain capital facilities that are required to serve new development. In this case, the City of Phoenix charges in all categories we're permitted to under state law. which is fire protection, police, parks, libraries, major arterial storm drainage, water, wastewater, and water resource acquisition. These fees were last updated in January of 2015. The draft land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans were posted to the city's website on July 1 of this year to allow for the public comment period. To date, any of the public can look at that and provide any comments. Pursuant to state law, today is just a public hearing for the council and members of the public to offer any public comments. We will be back to you on October 16th with a report of the public comments that we have gathered so far and ask for you to endorse the draft plan at that time. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for? All right, with that, we will open the public hearing. We do not have any cards from members of the public wishing to provide comment, so we will close the public hearing and look forward to seeing you at the next update. Thank you. We will then move to item 43, which is a case at the southwest corner of 55th Avenue and Dobbins Road. Would you please give us a brief staff report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is a general plan amendment for the southwest corner of 55th Avenue and Dobbins Road. In this case, it is a residential request from varying residential densities of 0 to 1 all the way to 10 to 15 for a 164-acre site. The Village Planning Committee did vote to approve the request to go to residential 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre by a 7-0 vote, and the Planning Commission also heard it and recommended approval by an 8-0 vote. There is a companion zoning case that the village and applicant are working on some of the density issues with that zoning case, and that will come forward at a later time under a separate action. With that, staff is happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Garcia?
Motion to approve per Planning Commission recommendation and adopt a related resolution.
Second.
Wonderful. Thank you for the motion. With that, I will open the public hearing. Do we have any cards? We do not have any cards from members of the public wishing to provide comment, so I will close the public hearing. This is an item near where the 202 freeway is currently being built and where we're seeing a lot of activity. And to me, this is a good reminder that we need to have a lot of dialogue with our community about some of the developments plans near the freeway, and particularly what we would like to see in terms of employment in the freeway corridor. There's going to be a lot of change coming to this area, and it would be good to be proactive and make sure we get the resources and amenities that our residents hope to see. With that, any comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Williams?
Yes.
Waring? Gallego?
Yes. Item passes 9-0. We next moved to item 44.
Mayor,
Councilman Williams.
I move to approve item 44 per the memo from the Planning and Development Director dated September 3rd, 2019, and adopt the related ordinance. This memo adds stipulations that address concerns that I've heard from residents about the negative impact of overheight accessory buildings, outdoor street lights, and residential building lights, and adds a general conformance stipulation to the new site plan that adds a new access to the proposed subdivision from 39th Avenue.
Thank you for that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear a staff report from Planning and Development Director Alan Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, thank you. This item is a zoning case that is located at the southeast corner of 39th Avenue and Dynamite Road. Advancing to those slides here, just 1 second. Sorry about that. All right, right there. So this is a request from S1 to R118 for a 29.17 acre site generally located at the southeast corner of 39th Avenue and Dynamite Road. 39th Avenue, you can see is in green is where the site, and then Dynamite Boulevard alignment is the north alignment directly south of the Central Arizona Project Canal. In this case, the applicant is proposing a residential project by Taylor Morrison Homes to construct at a density of 1.47 dwelling units per acre. The Deer Valley Village Planning Committee did hear this case and recommended approval on July 18th, 2019. If you advance the slide, perfect, thank you. So this is just a close-up of the area. You can see the general plan in this case is residential 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre. You see larger lot residential development in the immediate area, but further off on the sides, you see some of the more traditional suburban residential development. Next slide. This is the applicant's proposed site plan, which does have 2 access points, which is a change from prior site plans that just had all the access off 37th Avenue. There now is an access off 39th Avenue, as Councilwoman Williams noted. You can see the proposed site plan has open space and the residential lots inside there, and so traffic will be dispersed getting here from 37th and 39th Avenue. Next slide shows the proposed elevations for the product type. Those have been built in other parts of the northern part of the city and are generally a high-end product for Taylor Morrison Homes. Staff does recommend approval per the memo that came out yesterday and adoption of the related ordinance. I would note for the record, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this case by a 7-0 vote, but it was approved by the Village Planning Committee on a 5-3 vote. With that, staff's happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no questions, we will move to open the public hearing.
Mayor, I would like to recommend that each side is allotted 10 minutes for time for public speaking, applicant and then the citizens, and if we don't get to all the cards, that they, at least the names are recorded in the record.
Perfect, thank you. And if we could turn to our team, if we could adjust the clock, that would be very helpful. Would you prefer to hear from the applicant first or last?
Let's go first because some changes were made and I don't know if everyone here knows what was done.
Perfect, if we could begin with the applicant.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Demmett with Gamage and Burnham on behalf of Taylor Morrison Homes. I'll focus, Alan gave a great overview of the project. I'll focus on some of the work that we've done over the last 6 to 9 months with the neighborhood on this project. Reiterating that the existing zoning on this property is S1, which would allow 29 homes to be built today. As the proposal is before you today, we're proposing a maximum of 43 homes, which is 14 additional houses over what's allowed. At a density of 1.47 units per acre, it's comfortably within the city's general plan. From a context standpoint, and Alan did mention this as well, we have S1 properties immediately adjacent to this parcel, but there is a significant amount of traditional residential development in the neighborhood. A block to the south of us is the Riordan Ranch neighborhood, which is lots that are averaging about 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. Our proposal, on the other hand, is that we have minimum 15,000 square foot third acre lots for this project. We started working on this project in November of last year, and the proposal that you have before you today has been reinvented many times over between then and now. We have had a lot of opportunities to work with the neighborhood, to talk with the neighborhood, to incorporate their feedback in the plan, and we have done that every step of the way. The other side of this is that as we've worked with the neighborhood, they have maintained really a singular position with respect to this project. That is, if we are not willing to support the existing S1 zoning and develop under the existing S1 zoning, then there's no discussion to be had. And so as we've moved the needle, time and time again in response to issue after issue that's been raised throughout the course of this process, the neighborhood has not come to the table to work with us. And this is important because the location of this property is just west of I-17, across the interstate from the USAA campus, one of the city's growing employment corridors. The City of Phoenix and the home building community itself are challenged and are struggling to find opportunities to respond to demands for growth in this city. And as we continue, and as the city continues to invest in its employment corridors and in infrastructure, having new residential housing to accommodate that growth is part and parcel. I mean, it is married to the total package. We need to find new opportunities for housing in the city. And it's important for the city to bridge that gap by finding projects, hopefully, that have both the support, or that show support for existing residents, but also support the city's demands for growth. And as I mentioned, with this project, we've moved the needle over and over again to try to be responsive. We've cut the density in half from our original proposal, such that we're only proposing 14 additional houses. This project is a commitment to all single-story homes. Throughout the project, we have buffers incorporated on all sides of this project that will result in setbacks that are greater than the setbacks that would be had under S1 zoning. We have incorporated a public equestrian trail and a public pedestrian trail through this property to maintain historical public access to the Deem Hills Recreation Area. There is more than 7 acres of open space out of this 30-acre parcel. And importantly, developing this as a subdivision as opposed to a series of lot splits, which is likely how that would transpire under S1, allows us to provide expansion of the city's infrastructure services with engineered water, sewer, and drainage solutions for this area. We've continued, even as this project has moved through the hearing process, we've continued to make changes in response to continued feedback from the community. As recently as last week, we prepared a revised site plan for this project that added a second local street access point into and out of the community. This was a significant point of concern from the neighborhood, that we had only one access point to this community, and that the 14 additional homes would create a traffic concern for the neighbors that lived on 37th Avenue. And so we worked with the city and were able to incorporate a second access point along 39th Avenue to provide 2 points of access to the property. We also, in the last week, have added additional stipulations regarding rural street lighting standards and dark sky provisions for light fixtures on the homes. Again, all of this in response to feedback that we've heard along the way that we have tried to respond to. The one thing we can't do is bring you a project that is in conformance with the existing S1 zoning. We believe this is a good project and a reasonable compromise. We feel really strongly that a subdivision that is designed to meet the city standards, that brings water, sewer, engineering, drainage solutions into conformance with city standards, is a better solution than 29 additional homes that would likely be built via additional lot splits. As staff noted, we have the support of planning staff. The Village Planning Committee, after a lengthy hearing, voted to support this project. And we request your support as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
I don't know if the residents here have a spokesperson. Okay. Is that you?
Council members, there's 5 of us that would like to speak. We'd like to have 2 minutes each to make the 10 minutes. Is that acceptable?
Yes. What's your name?
So my name is Jacques Brados. I'll go ahead and start, and I'll ask my other 4 cohorts to line up behind me. All right, so my name is Jacques Brados. I live at 27809 North 37th Avenue in Phoenix, Arizona. And I wanted to say there's 3 things that I wanted to bring up to this. Again, S1 is what I desire, the traffic on Pinnacle Vista, and the rural lifestyle that we would like to maintain, and I apologize that I'm nervous already. At the Planning Committee, Taylor Morrison indicated that they were willing to improve 37th Avenue. 37th Avenue, I took my tape measure, measured it, is 24 feet wide. All of that would also transfer through Pinnacle Vista, which is the main street that leads out to the frontage road for I-17. That is also 24 feet wide in many locations. And while it might be zoned to be wider someday in the future, today it is not. and I don't think it has the support to bring in the additional houses today, including the build-out of the other properties that may happen someday in the future. In my opinion, this is the definition of S1 of spot zoning. Not only is it surrounded by S1, it is surrounded by S1 lots that are already improved. It will never, I hate to say never, it would take significant effort for R to reach down to those locations. There is an expectation, I've only lived in my house for coming up in 4 years in October, that that neighborhood would stay that farm, rural lifestyle that that I moved there for. And that rural lifestyle is really important. No curbs, no sidewalks on a lot of these streets, animals, horses. It is an important part of the entire village to have these farm rural areas. If anything, we want to maintain that. And not being able to have horses, not being able to have cows, not being able to have chickens like many of us is going to really change it. So please, the village committee passed it 5-3. One person would have made it neutral. The planning committee 0-7 rejects it. There's a large grassroots, I saw you hold up the stack, that is opposed to this. Please maintain this rural lifestyle inside of the city of Phoenix and our village. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Stephen Mosley, 3745 West Dynamite. When the process started and they notified us, those that were close enough, I went and knocked on every door that had a dwelling on it on the parcels. That's 113 parcels that had dwellings on it. And of those, 95 I was able to contact, and none of them were willing or wanted to have the zoning changed. My plea would be that represents 69% of the existing parcels, excluding the parcel in question, already has a dwelling on it with the anticipation that that's what the zoning would stay for our area. This is not a big area. It's a half square mile. Our plea would be that you leave the zoning the way it was. All of the people that I knocked on their door, they bought out there because they wanted a little bit more room. If it's not too much trouble, all of those who came in opposition to this, could you please stand up so that we know, or raise your hand? A lot of people took time off work to come down here. Their piece is not contiguous to another area like it that's got a third-acre lots. You set a precedence that we have to live with for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Vest. I live at 27635 North 37th Avenue. I've contacted all of you via email with my concerns over the traffic and the street coming, all the traffic coming out the street right in front of my house, the destruction of the lifestyle of what we have back there. What we have back there is very special. This is a piece of rural America in the corner of Phoenix. To rezone it R118 and put in tract-type houses, which are very nice tract-type houses, destroys what we all moved out there for. The R1, or the S1 district ordinance, the first paragraph, part of it reads, the S1 district will afford areas where semi-rural residential and agricultural uses can be maintained without impairment from industrial, commercial, or higher density residential development. That paragraph was written for our little corner. It's not an area where there's, the 1 mile by 1 mile square that's got an empty space in it. This is the back corner where we've got a canal and we've got the mountain preserve. And then we've got S1 houses all around it. This is one isolated thing that they want to change and will destroy the area. And when they talk about 14 extra houses, understand from the S1 ordinance, the minimum lot size, not general density, the minimum lot size is 1 acre. So if a developer were to come in there, they will not get 29 houses. They have to put in streets and they have to put in lot sizes. If they're developed individually, there's very likely going to be 5-acre lots. These are going to be people with money that want to live next to the mountain preserve. It would sell that way. It doesn't need to be developed R118 for it to be developed. Just needs to have the owner put it up for sale, which it seems like he's willing to. Thank you.
I have a handout. I also, my name is Patty Demers. I'm on the south side there where the proposed site is. I have mailed you, and now I'm handing you. I asked you if you could to drive that unique area. So just giving you a little bit of a heads up. My husband and I are both opposed, obviously, to any rezoning changes that allows the dwelling of more than one house per acre. In our quiet, peaceful neighborhood, we purchased our home approximately 15 years ago because of the really uniqueness of the neighborhood, the quiet, the peaceful night skies, the country lifestyle, okay, and the S1 zoning. I held a commercial and real estate business license. I know the value of S1 zoning. My husband and I are both cancer survivors. This is peace and serenity. This is our home. We have PTSD veterans that live with us. My son has 4 daughters. Sorry, we have 10 grandbabies, but he lives with us as well. This is a place for us to decompress, and it is quiet country lifestyle, and that's why we move here. All of our neighbors in and around this area have either built a custom ranch home or moved into one. So the unique country lifestyle that we had in mind is our country way of life. So it would make perfect sense that if anybody wants to come in, we're not asking for the moon, just keep the zoning, okay? And they should be required to follow the same rules as us. And I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional because doggone it, it's my home. So one more thing. So our country lifestyle obviously allows for farm animals that live in the neighborhood, from horses to cows. When city dwellers come into this farm area, they're not used to the unique smells and the sounds of the country life. We embrace it. We're proud of it. We're part of the heritage of this area. We teach from 4-H to FFA. This rezoning will jeopardize our lifestyle, so we're begging you to please don't take our country lifestyle away. Thank you.
Monica Harmon, and right now my husband and I own the 5 acres that's empty up right there, and we plan to build really soon, and that address is 27806 North 37th Avenue. Here is a quick draw up of what I have done. Oh, that's what Taylor Morrison is trying to put in there. But I did a drop of how many houses should be allowed back there, because by the time you put streets in there, then you have, you don't have 29 acres to work with. Our lot right here, we have even the street in front of it, plus a 20-foot easement. Legally, according to the laws of Phoenix, we can only put 4 houses on our 5 acres because of that easement. So we cannot say that there are 29 homes allowed back here. It is not right for someone who's trying to merge into traffic that they go to the city and they demand that the laws be changed. Taylor Morrison is trying to merge into this beautiful, peaceful neighborhood, and they are asking for the laws, the zoning to be changed. It is covered. It is surrounded by the S1 zoning. It is surrounded by it. Over here, all the way down, is all S1 zoning. There's no attachment anywhere to any higher development. And that is why this city commission turned it down. A complete 0 vote in the favor. It was a no from there because it did not connect at all to any other high development. So it is not right that they are trying to merge into our community and trying to change our laws when the law is there, and that is what the community wants. We want to stay S1 zoning, and we are happy to have anyone that wants to be there. Plenty of developers would love to develop S1. Thank you.
Let me ask you a quick question, if that's all right. What's to the west of you? That big vacant piece of property?
That is Deem Hills Preserve.
It's what?
Deem Hills Preserve.
Oh, it's preserved then?
Yeah.
By whom? Who owns it? Oh, the city owns that land? Oh, okay. So it's under the actual preserve?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, yes. It is part of the city's mountain preserve system.
Yeah, because we have different designations. We call them preserves sometimes, when in fact that they're not. So it gives it a special designation, which is a higher level. That's good.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Jordan. I live at 27607 North
I think we
39th Avenue.
have-
Pardon me?
I think we did 10 minutes per side. I think we maybe will pause and see if any council members have questions or comments.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Alan, you had stated that the village had passed, I think, I want to say 5-4, but I'm not sure.
5 to 3.
5 to 3. And then you had said that in the planning commission, they had voted no against the project.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, that is correct.
Can I ask, what I would like to know is, in particular, why they voted no? What was the discussion?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, in this case, the discussion was about the context of the area and the surrounding neighborhood with the larger lots and the impacts from this proposed project being 1.47 dwelling units per acre versus 1 home per acre. I know that a couple of the Planning Commission members felt like they wanted to have the applicant have a continuance to try and work out some of the issues more with the neighbors, and in talking to them afterwards, they felt like that because there wasn't a continuance to try and work on things, that they didn't feel like the case was really there at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Williams and then Councilwoman Stark.
I just want to make a comment on this. These are always very, very difficult. This is an area that was kind of undiscovered. They did have a great little community back there, but now the builders have discovered it. And this is just the first case in this area. I have 2 more and possibly 3 pending. And it happened to me 30 years ago. I moved out with my horses, could ride, the kids could take off, and all at once, the whole area blossomed. So I have great empathy for you. I know, but I also know that we have to continue. The trend is building north. Most of the infill is filled, and this is an area that the employers that are moving out there need homes for. And so I understand where you're coming from. I hope that we've addressed a lot of your problems. I know it's not all of them, but I do support this.
Councilwoman Stark.
So, looking at the lot splits, it appears there are a lot of houses that don't have a road in front of them. Were they split in the county and just have easements?
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, there were some ones that were split in the Phoenix as well. They do have a road dedications in some cases. There are improved roads. It's hard to tell from the aerial here, but 39th Avenue up to the subject site is paved. 37th Avenue has pavement going all the way up it. A portion of Dynamite off to where the subject site is by the existing suburban area, that is paved, as well as 33rd Avenue and Pinnacle Vista all have right-of-way and pavement within that area. There are some other ones, that were done over time in a piecemeal fashion that do have access off some easements and/or dirt roads still.
So if they were to subdivide this in an S1 fashion, they could still do private streets, narrow streets. They would have the ability not to have sidewalks, so they could actually get the density of 29 lots.
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, yes, they would be
By
able
the
to get
design,
the 29 because it's a gross acreage. Zoning goes out to the center line of the street, And so they would still be able to get that amount of units, because they also don't have to have on-site retention, common retention. They would have retention on their individual 1-acre lots. So you lose a lot of the open space, feel that you get here by pushing the units away from the surrounding properties with a common, open space tracts, because you'll have the larger lots and the retention will be on those parcels.
But you could achieve that density, and it would be more of a rural looking.
Yeah, you could get, without having it laid out in front of me, you could get, I think, very close to the 29 units. Because you would be able, it counts as gross, so you get to count part of the
matter of design. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman DeCiccio.
Just a quick one. So if they can do it, why not? I mean, if I could ask the applicant that question. I mean, I live in an area where I don't have sidewalks, and I like it personally. I like where I live, but why not have it that way? I'm just curious.
Why not develop it as a non-traditional subdivision? Is that the question?
I mean,
I think
the open space idea, I mean, open space is between people's property too. I mean, it doesn't have to be just confined to one area or multiple areas.
I think part of it is our experience. Number one, it's a preference to develop it as a planned community and to consolidate open space areas where they're more meaningful versus having them on individual lots. Some of it is long-term maintenance for the community as well. We've heard a lot of comments from the neighborhood as we've talked to them over the last 6 months regarding drainage and flooding issues that are historical in the neighborhood, and I think this is a common symptom in areas that develop like this, where you don't have coordinated engineered solutions to things like drainage corridors. And by developing this in a planned community fashion, we're able to provide those engineered solutions and actually improve the drainage situation in the neighborhood.
Well, I'm going to respect the council member from that area because that's what we do here. But at the end of the day, I'm going to have to push back a little bit on that, because the on-site retention, every lot would have to retain their own water anyways. So the drainage that you would have through there, and I don't know how the drainage flow goes, but I mean, you'd have to do that on-site anyways. Each lot would have to retain.
No, you do have to do that on site, but I think there's a historical pattern of when it's not maintained in a coordinated fashion, like through a homeowners association, that you have individual residents that have different levels of maintenance of those facilities, and I think we have experienced or been told that there are some drainage issues in this neighborhood because of that. But we think that. We also think that there's a market here for something other than S1. 25% of the S1 lots that are left in this area that we're talking about are all vacant. And this is in between. This is in the middle. These are third-acre lots. They're not small. It's not high density. And you have examples of successful integration of different types of land uses all across the city, in the South Mountain area, Cactus Corridor, North Central. And our view is it's important for the city to embrace different types of lifestyles, and people do find a way to live together. I mean, the suburban lots that are south of us that are on 7,000 and 8,000 square foot lots, we have been told in talking to the neighbors, they all get along just fine, and clearly they each have respect for their own lifestyles.
So when you say we've been told, I'm not that guy, so I have to know facts. I'm sorry. So when you do lots like this, it's not unusual for them to be vacant because the owners don't want to build yet. So they're individually owned. I'm just letting you know. I mean, I live in an area similar to that. And again, it goes back into, you don't know what, I think the market is there for an S1, but again, it's not my call. It's going to be, for the council member in that district. But, if you look at this, it's pretty well nestled right in the middle, and it's backing up to a preserve. It just seems like you could have built it and not had this brain damage here today. It seems like you could have done this differently.
Well, we started with a much different proposal and worked to this over the last 6 months. I think there are a lot of benefits that are coming with this and that are protections for the neighborhood with respect. We're doing all single-story homes. which is a commitment from the developer. We have buffers, permanent maintained buffers around the property that will, create setbacks that are greater than what they would have if they had folks coming in building S1 properties next door. It's a balance. I mean, we're not trying to say, we're an S1 project. We think this is a very compatible, reasonable alternative that does help fulfill some of the city's housing demands.
Thank you. Any further council member? All right, with that, we will close the public hearing.
A different zoning case.
All right, call to order. Do we have any further council member comments, or are we ready for roll call? All right. No, roll call.
DeCiccio. Garcia.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
I'm going with the council member of that district. I'll be voting yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Williams.
Yes.
Waring. Gallego.
Yes. 9-0. Item 45 is next on the agenda.
Yeah, Mayor. I have a motion to make, but I'd like to make a few comments first.
Great.
If I may. This is another case that's been going on for quite a while. In August, staff and I went out to meet with the residents there, and we found they had some very legitimate concerns, but I want to compliment staff. Alan has worked very hard, Keeney has worked very hard, and what we discovered, our timing was great because they had, unbeknownst to us in the process, they had just built a charter school. And it was not quite ready to open, but it did, with 400 students. And I had staff really look at 43rd Avenue and the school. So I will tell you, they went to the school, and they formed 2 parent pickup lines on school property, because keep in mind, 43rd Avenue is like 2 lanes. It's small, but it's the only major street out there at this time. So they worked with the school. They've got a methodology for this time for drop-off and pick-up at the curb. They worked with the school to create a second line. They also insisted that the school have a safety officer that would provide crossing guard paddles and school crossing training to the school staff who was providing the crossing at the 43rd Avenue and Circle Mountain Road. They also worked with the construction contractor to provide for a pickup and drop-off area along Circle Mountain Road. And both transportation and the police department staff worked to commit with the school to migrate any remaining traffic impacts or assist with other traffic issues that may come up in the future. The contractor is making street improvements along the frontage of 43rd. The improvement should be completed by late September. Once these are completed, crosswalks will be installed at the intersection of 43rd and Circle Mountain to provide better, safer crossings for the students walking to and from school. Once they are completed, they will be able to have implementation of the pickup drop-off area, and the school also implemented a revised queuing operation for the pickup drop-off. And I really want to thank you for working with the school, because in the beginning they weren't too willing to make any changes or even talk to us. And I also have made progress with the residents. I mean, they had some very sincere concerns about 43rd Avenue. And staff and I have had several conversations about how to proceed on 43rd Avenue. I think this area somewhat grew very rapidly without attention down here of what was occurring, the traffic, the numbers, and the homes being built up there. This is north of the Anthem outlets. And so street transportation is going to be making roadway improvements to build out 43rd Avenue through a phased improvement projects because they have to get additional right-of-way. They have identified some money. We're looking for some more. 2 of the areas are owned and in Maricopa County. So we are hoping that those owners will dedicate the right-of-way and the county will participate in building that part of the road. And by phase 2, the improvements to 43rd will include streetlights, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and landscaping on the east side of 43rd Avenue. So I'm very proud of the staff, how they responded very quickly. They are finding solutions. They are working with the school as well as the neighborhoods. And then the developer has agreed to improve the signal at 43rd and Anthem Way so we can have a dual left turn. So I thank you all for what you've done, and the motion is to approve rezoning application Z9018-1 per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance with the following new stipulation, number 21, that no development activity, which includes but is not limited to construction of the site infrastructure, walls, buildings, or any type of grading shall commence on the site for a minimum of 6 months from the date of the City Council approval. And I'm hoping that will allow the school to make the improvements. 43rd Avenue will have had more attention and improvements, and I think it's very important that it's a community effort. We work together to find solutions because this is an area that's going to continue to grow. It is a unique piece of property. I think it's the last piece on top of the hill, if I recall right. And this is still subject to go through the county flood control district and have approval before anything can be done out there. So I'm moving approval, as stated.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear a staff report from Planning and Development Director Alan Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, I'll be brief. This is a request from S1 to R16 and S1 for a 55-acre site for proposed single-family residential development. The area is shown in green here. 43rd Avenue that Councilwoman Williams just referenced goes down from the site. That is the arterial street that provides access to this particular area. The school that was referenced is right on the southeast corner of Circle Mountain Road and 43rd Avenue. It shows up as empty desert on this aerial, but there is in fact a school there, and that caused a lot of traffic issues that the councilwoman has talked about in directing streets to work on trying to address. This is the proposed zoning area. It is 2R16, which is consistent with what's to the south within the Anthem area, as well as to the immediate east area. It is for 89 lots. They are larger lot sizes, and you see the drainage course going through there, and then the portion that is the area around blue here, which is S1, they'll put a trail and some bank improvements as they recontour New River Wash. That does require approval through our floodplain management group here at the city, as well as FEMA at the national level to make sure there's no upstream or downstream impacts to New River Wash. This is the proposed conceptual entryway exhibits. Staff does recommend approval, per the Planning Commission, and obviously with the additional stipulation that Councilwoman Williams read into the record. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Alan? At this time, we will move to the public hearing. To be, as in the previous item, we will have 10 minutes on each side for the public hearing. We'll begin with the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here on behalf of the property owner. The property owner is Desert Hills 160. They've owned this 160 acres, of which we're requesting zoning approval on about 55 of it. They've owned it since the 1990s. We very much appreciate staff's recommendation for approval and the Planning Commission's unanimous present recommendation for approval. When I made the PowerPoint, I'd said we accept stipulations 1 through 20. I believe 21 was just added, and number 21 is also acceptable to Desert Hills 160. We request your approval in accordance with the Planning Commission and staff recommendations plus number 21. There's a lot of things going on this particular site plan that I think are important to discussions concerning land use and zoning. Importantly, it's for single-family homes. We're consistent with the general plan. We are requesting R16 here, S1 there. Although this is the 160 acres owned by my client, the zoning request is on about 55.4 acres. But not only are we consistent with the general plan, but our R16 is consistent with the R16 to our east and our R16 to our south. In addition to those kinds of things going on this particular exhibit, it also shows some of the planning that was done with a divided entryway. It shows one of many compromises that were made along the way with stipulating to a single story row of homes along the southernmost edge. Of course, we have curvilinear streets. Importantly, the mixed-use trail along the west and so on. A variety of other things going on this particular exhibit that's evolved through discussions with staff and others. You've already seen this exhibit, but importantly, it shows the divided entryway, 24 feet on each side, shows significantly more open space within the development that's required. We have about 16% open space, whereas code normally requires 5. We have a stipulation that calls for 10. We exceed all of that. The proposed home builder is Mattamy Homes. Their proposed home product is in the range of about 2,400 to 4,000 square feet. They do a good job, but in addition to that, stipulation 3 through various subparts calls for various diversity and enhancements and elevation adjustments and so on to make sure that they're high-quality homes. There's been extensive neighborhood outreach. I'm not going to say we've eliminated opposition by any stretch, but not only did we have 4 neighborhood meetings plus other follow-up calls and meetings and discussions, but Councilwoman Williams also sponsored her own meeting. We attended. We did not make a presentation, but like and other staff, we listened and so on. That's where a variety of solutions evolved that Councilmember Williams was talking about a few minutes ago. We've talked a lot about traffic. We certainly didn't create the existing traffic situation. In fact, according to our study, we contribute only about 5.5% in the morning peak and about 6.5% in the afternoon peak to the trips at 43rd and Anthem Way. But my client has agreed to help the city improve the signal in that location through contribution that's been discussed with the council member and with Keeney's office. We also, through staff and ADOT, identified, if necessary, additional ways in and out of the site. 43rd Avenue is the primary way. There's 4 other ways to route around depending upon where there might be street blockage for some particular reason. I can go into these in as much detail as you want. This one is probably not a zoning issue per se, but I'm going to anticipate it'll be discussed some, and that a part of the property is in the floodplain. Importantly, a CLOMAR was processed all the way through FEMA's approval in 2005 on 44 acres. We're requesting now, or will be requesting, a CLOMAR on only 13 acres. Importantly, as Alan indicated, a part of that process verifies that there's no increase in water surface level upstream of the 160 acres or downstream. Finished floors will be set not at the 100-year flood, but at a 500-year flood, higher than the law requires. Our property, upon presuming approval of this CLOMAR, will not be in the floodplain. Our residents will not pay flood insurance, and we know that we cannot be out there grading within the floodplain unless and until that CLOMAR is approved. Again, we have people here who can discuss that in more details if you want. At the Planning Commission level and other meetings, we even talked about where a lift station would go. It was moved to this location. We believe this is the location that is, of the choices given, preferred by neighbors. Importantly, when we do a comparison, at 170 homes, that's much fewer than R16 would allow. Our density at 3.1 is less than the general plan would allow on most of the site. Our lots are wider than R16 would require. We have about triple the open space that's normally required. We've agreed to 1 story on some of the homes, and we agree with the various stipulations that call for a variety of enhancements. Compromise-wise, at least from our perspective, developing on only the 55.4 acres, agreeing to the maximum 170, the 1-story homes, the various things that have been done with the trail and the enhancements, the reduced floodplain, and so on, we believe is very much in the spirit of bringing an R16 development to a site that has R16 to its east and to its south and is consistent with the general plan. We request your approval. We appreciate the recommendations that we've been provided, and we certainly accept all 21 stipulations and would ask that you approve accordingly. If I may, Mayor, I'd like to reserve any time I may have left for rebuttal if you consider that appropriate.
Thank you. Councilman DeCiccio.
Just a quick question, and this goes to the compatibility question too, Ed. It looks like you have R16 pretty much around you with other than the open zoning that you have on RE35 that can come back at a later date anyways. So to the south, oh, you can't hear me.
I
Sorry.
couldn't.
I'm Italian, you should be able to hear my voice. So it looks like to the east you have R16, to the south you have R16.
Yes.
And then you do have an RE35, but that always could be rezoned at some point in the future anyway, so it's an open zoning.
Yes.
I'm going to the compatibility issues that I had some issues on the last one on, but this one here, at least from my end, looks more compatible when it comes to the type of zonings that are around you. I'd like to hear what the opposition has to say, but at the end of the day, it seems to fit with the request that you have, and actually it has a little lower zoning with the amount of density you have in yours. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 6 cards from individuals who want to speak in opposition, which would be 12 minutes. So we can. Is there a spokesperson for the opposition?
Doesn't say so. So we just do them individual? Okay.
Great.
Okay. Derek Montague?
Honorable Mayor, Councillors, my name is Derek Montague. I live at 44614 North St. Laurent Royal Lane in Phoenix, which is close by the proposed Riverview development. Having heard a brief discussion here on traffic issues, I desperately wanted to respond to some of those points, but I don't have the time, so I'll have to leave that to people who follow me. In my allotted time, instead, I'd like to focus on a potential problem that's fortunately infrequent, but when it does arise, has a very large impact, and that's flooding. As you do know, the proposed Riverview site is in the New River Wash, part of which is a FEMA-designated flood zone. My concerns are that new homes in proposed review site in the development will sooner or later be flooded, and that existing homes will be similarly impacted. The developers claim that these risks are negligibly small, citing planned mitigating construction activities, presumably based on U.S. hydrologic infrastructure design guidelines, and flood predictions of unknown validity from a computer modeling study. However, the U.S. hydrologic infrastructure design guidelines, these are not they, these are a criticism which points out credibly that they are now inadequate. This appeared only 6 weeks ago. And furthermore, that there's an increasing trend across the nation of more frequent extreme storms. In addition, a separate recent study that only came out 1 month ago points out, that study is by USDA and University of Arizona hydrologists, has shown that monsoon storm rainfall intensities in Arizona are increasing. The bottom line is that together, the results of these two studies that highlight ongoing changes in precipitation undermine the confidence we have in the developer's ability to assess future flooding within the Riverview development. Certainly, we shouldn't be surprised if in the future flooding assessments by the developer, or even FEMA for that matter, or whomever, turn out to be less than accurate. The reason is everything they're using to make those assessments is now out of date. In my view, worst, not best case scenarios should guide decision making concerning development in flood-prone areas, particularly when flooding probabilities are predicted to be increasing. Anything less is a recipe for disaster.
And just a reminder, you have 10 minutes total.
Yeah.
I'll stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Cox.
My name is Michael Cox. I live at Circle Mountain Ranch, 44626 North Sonora and Aurora Lane. I've been to every meeting we've had concerning this issue, and each time we have actually proved the people who the development incorrect in their assessments of what they're trying to do. Each and every time. First time, they didn't do their homework, so they brought the big guns out. It hasn't made any difference. Where they want to build is considered an arroyo, like a wash. And it should be considered not a floodplain, but a floodway. I have no idea. I have a close friend who worked for FEMA, and this is the information he gave me. I came out of the development yesterday, and there were 39 cars coming out from the school. Now, this is just from the school and my automobile. There were 39 cars at the stoplight. I don't care what is planned for lights, streets, for 43rd Avenue, for Anthem Way. There's actually no possible way that that traffic can be rendered for the amount of traffic that goes in and out of there. The school alone, the commissioner herself did not even know the school was there that was being built. Then this is the kind of, I moved here because of politics in Phoenix 40 years ago when I first came out here. I was very impressed with the city of Phoenix politicians and the state. And that was one of my reasons for moving out here. I'm very sad to say that most of our residents have already been told this is a done deal. I'm from Chicago, and this is very scary to me. And most of the residents aren't here tonight because of the fact that certain people have told them this is a done deal. The week before we met with the commissioner, Lennar can't sell their homes on their view lots now because this development is building homes directly in back of them on their lots. I'm going to leave my time for,
Oh,
I
Mayor,
know
may I
some
ask
other
a
people want to speak.
question, too?
But I'm very sad to see that, and told that this was a done deal. I'm sorry, but I was
Councilman
hoping that this
DeCiccio?
turnout would be a little better.
Oh, no, that's all right. It doesn't matter if it's one person or 1,000.
Well,
We
I want
treat them all.
everybody
Oh, well, I got a question. So anyone else who's coming up, I'd also like to look at the compatibility question. I mean, you've got R16 zoning around you. The drainage stuff we deal with on a regular basis here. I'm just letting you know from our end, or at least from my end. I shouldn't speak for anyone else on the council, but when it comes to the drainage, that can be engineered through. But I'm looking more from my end of it, and again, I'm going to respect whatever the council member in that district does. But at the end of the day, I haven't heard anything compelling as to why I should even vote no on this one, other than you're talking about the drainage. What I want to hear is the compatibility issue. Is it compatible with the other zoning that's around there? And it looks like it's compatible. It looks like it's the same type of zoning that's in that area with more open space than, at least from what I've seen here, than the other projects that are there.
Well, our biggest concern not only was with the traffic, was this is an Arroyo. They're much further down than all the homes around there. They're saying they're only going to build up like 2 or 3 inches up. That's impossible with the kind of water that comes through there. If you look at their plans on how they build, and then they gave us a map on showing on what our site would be to the mountains and everything else, that they're going to be so far down there, we'll still have the view of the reasons why most of us have moved there. And it's just impossible.
So I'm being very direct about this, but so is it a view issue or is it an engineering issue?
It's all. It's a view issue.
Are you afraid
it's the
you're gonna be
concerns
flooded?
of the people who are going to live there, because there was a gentleman at the preliminary meeting before the last meeting that said that all of them voted no. One of the gentlemen had the main reason my feelings about it is that he said he wasn't going to take the responsibility for being liable for somebody that may, if a flood comes through there and somebody is injured or dies, he was not going to be responsible, taking the responsibility of voting yes for something like that happening, from what was told of all the residents and the people they brought in. We brought in just as many experts on traffic, flooding, just about everything that they had to contradict what they were talking about. And that's why this is going back and forth. And I was a little concerned about the meeting we had with the council lady, that it reminded me of the last group that was here, why they were upset. And I understand that. When I said that we were told that this was a done deal, they started on the street already, leading toward that area. They did some work over there already. The school was put up, like Councilwoman, she didn't know anything. All the residents know anything about that school until they started building. And it's created a traffic issue and concerns about people speeding up down there. Those are things that can be taken care of. The traffic is, I don't care what they do. If they do the master plan like they're doing on I-17, it's not going to help. There's a lot of residents that going through there, and plus the new residents from this development are not going to be part of Parkside. What are those children going to be able to do?
Thank you. I think you answered the question. Thank you.
I'm Neil Reifenbark. I'm on the board of directors of the New River Desert Hills Community Association. And I'd like to say first thank you to Councilperson Williams for making the efforts to try to mitigate the impact on our community of this development. I feel, however, that there remain issues, particularly with regard to traffic. And I think sort of wishing and hoping that the county will come in and help is not a plan. I think we need another access point to relieve the traffic. 43rd Avenue right now, without this development, is a mess. And the idea that we're going to push out the edges a little bit and call that a fix, I think is going to very quickly prove to be inadequate. I also worry as a member of our community with regard to the effect on flood. You can say that they have the best engineers in the world and they've thought this all through, but when in a couple of years we have yet another 100-year rain monsoon like we did in 2014, and we find that things are flooding in Arroyo Grande, you're going to wonder why we didn't do the following, which is, as a member of our organization, we respectfully ask that you deny this request for rezoning and send the developer back to repencil this thing out so as to provide us with greater assurance that the floods won't be a problem, and very importantly, to provide at least one more point of access into this development. Thank you for your time.
Jeff Huff? Jeff Huff?
That's me, but I'm going to let Anthem Community Council go first. I think it's very important that they be heard, if that's okay. Their cards.
You, Robert?
Robert's there and Roger is here.
Go ahead.
Okay, very quickly, I'm Mayor Gallego and the council members. My name is Roger Willis. I live at 2102 West Legends Way in Anthem. I'm the past president of the Anthem Community Council, and I'm going to be very specific here. I am personally neutral on this. I didn't check against or for, recognizing that the developer has the right to build the Riverview community, but in a responsible way. And what I'm referring to specifically is that our residents in the Arroyo Norte subdivision, if you will, are very concerned. They've been told that changing the flow of New River will not affect their properties. But based on reviewing the document that you have, documents you have, pages 285 to 287, I respectfully disagree with that assurance. For the benefit of those homeowners, we believe that a compromise design is in order to limit the change in the flow of New River and limit the flooding that is very likely to occur in Arroyo Norte. I'm sorry, Arroyo Grande. Thank you.
Thank you. No? You're Robert, right? Yeah. Okay.
Mayor Gallegos, Councilwoman Williams, and members of the council, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment. I am vice president of the Anthem Community Council, which acts as a sort of a city council for our unincorporated community. We have major concerns with this development, which we've addressed in our letter to you. I will mention two things which sort of represent our concerns. Number one, circulation is a nightmare. 43rd Avenue is a parking lot. I'm very pleased to hear from Councilwoman Williams that some progress is being made for improvements on that street. However, I think it's a little bit less than we need, and it's a little bit too late. This development shouldn't go through until significant improvements are made. It's nice to landscape if you're sitting there in your car looking out, but it doesn't really improve circulation. Our second major problem is we don't know where the impact fees go that are collected from developments like this. We don't see any results. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Jerry, we have 11 seconds. Mayor, if I could just mention, the money that transportation has found is impact fees to build the road that they've already collected on other projects.
Am I on the clock? Or,
Not yet,
I guess I'm on the clock. I'm Ron Jarek from Anthem, best person on the Anthem Community Council, and I'm also from Chicago, whatever that means, Sal. I don't know. But my concerns have been iterated by the people before me, and that's the flooding that can take place by the change in water flow at the new development. There's also a dramatic need for a new exit, a new entrance out of that development because of the high school that went in. That's a private high school, no buses, all cars, 1,000 students.
If you could give us your final thought.
2,000 a day. That's an additional 500 cars there. We need a new entrance or exit in that area. Those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A very
for
efficient use of time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate your kindness. Take care.
Thank you. The applicant had reserved a little bit of additional time. I remember correctly, it was 3 minutes or 30 seconds? Okay, he's on it.
Could I ask a question of Mr. Bull?
Yes,
On
ma'am.
the CLUMAR, the conditional letter of the map revision to FEMA, you say it's all but approved. Do you have?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand where you are with that. I'm sorry, I got lost in.
The property has a CLOMAR was approved on it in 2005 for 44 acres. However, our current engineers, Hilgart Wilson, who do a tremendous amount of this kind of work, in preliminary discussions with staff, I'm unclear on whether this 2005 approval would be amended or do a new CLOMAR. But be that as it may, it was approved for 44 acres. If zoning approval is granted, Hilgart Wilson will be submitting and processing, as Alan indicated, first through the city's floodplain administrator and then ultimately through FEMA, a CLOMAR for 13 acres, which is about a 70% reduction in the amount of CLOMAR that was previously approved, but it's not filed yet.
Okay, so just a portion of the property has been approved through I call them CLUMARs, but CLOMARs. Right?
CLOMAR.
Yeah.
But this light-colored part of the property is not and has never been in the floodplain.
Okay.
It's this 44 acres that has an approved CLOMAR on it, but because grading didn't occur, it didn't go to the next step, which is a LOMAR, which we can talk more about. So it's still mapped as being within the floodplain, but the focus now is on these 13 acres, which Aubrey Thomas could discuss in much more detail than I, if you want.
No, I just wanted to get clarification. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Mayor, if I may, there's a couple things that I want to emphasize. First of all, as has been discussed and rediscussed, we're requesting R16, and we have R16 on the developing property to our east and the developed property to our south. That is the right zoning for this property, R16. The density that we're requesting is in accordance with a general plan, which is also an important factor in discussions like this. We appreciate the extraordinary amount of efforts that have been undertaken by staff and by the District 1 office and others to get their arms around the issues which have occurred in this area over the years and kind of got to a crescendo with the opening of the charter school. That wasn't within the city's control or within the city's ability to regulate, as I understand it, but the city's stepping up to help and is telling us we need to help as well, which we're doing. We've agreed through this stipulation 21 to not be out there grading and building houses and so on for at least 6 months. That will give the city a jump start on various improvements they're going to do. So we would request, in the context of this zoning case, that we focus on the zoning that's consistent with the general plan, that's consistent with the R16 to our east and south, and that we deal with CLOMAR issues through the city's engineering and ultimately FEMA's processes, knowing We can't be grading in this area unless and until that Clomar is approved. And we know that the city in earnest in various departments, irrespective of whether we were coming along or not, is earnestly working on proposed solutions to fit 43rd Avenue. We complement that. We believe that's the right thing to do, and we've intentionally divided our entryway to help get people in and out, and we've intentionally, through your staff and others, identified other ways in and out if necessary. We appreciate the recommendations. We appreciate the motion that's on the floor, and we request the council's approval.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilwoman Pastor.
Ellen, I have some questions, and they're not actual questions, it's a statement. I feel like these two cases are déjà vu for me in the sense of South Phoenix and Levine and the growth that has happened in those areas and up by the preserves. One in particular that I can think of is 35th Avenue and Baseline, from the mountain down to 35th Avenue and Baseline. Cesar Chavez Park is right there. And we're talking about flood zones or flood areas and possibly changing the movement of the water or how it goes. We, at the time, I wasn't part of the council, but at the time it was voted on for the growth to happen in that area. When I entered office and in between entering office and now, there were flooding patterns that happened, and as the city, we got involved and we looked at the retention basins and looked at all the different areas of what was happening. How does the city, if this is passed, how does the city then, after something is built, then looks at possibility if there is flooding happening in that area?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the city deals with flooding issues on a broader scale effort as well as on individual smaller projects. So you referenced what happened in the Levine area, and one of the challenges with Levine is that that is a farming community, and you could farm and let your crops get inundated. That helped you grow better crops that year. And so the natural river system that was in place was removed, and what the city has been working diligently on with property owners, with the flood control district, and the mayor and council is to work on putting that back in to have a system to handle the water within that whole area. And so there was several big projects that were done, the Levine Area Conveyance Channel. There's also one done in Estrella with the Flood Control District. But those floods that you referenced did show a need for more focused attention in areas up along South Mountain Park to help as new homes were coming in there to either retain some additional water, but then also convey it to appropriate places like the Levine Area Conveyance Channel. So that's how we deal with it on a big picture issue. But there is some challenges as you work with funding to put in some of those things relative to private property owners wanting to develop their parcels, and that's where individual project evaluations come in, like the one that is proposed here. In this case, there is a natural water system, the New River Wash, that comes through that area, and as part of that, they will be working with our floodplain management group to, and their engineers and my civil engineers to review the plans to make sure that they comply with all of our requirements. What Mr. Bull mentioned as part of a CLOMAR is a conditional letter of map revisions, and so that's the preliminary step you have to go to with the flood control or with the city and then FEMA, and then once that conditional one would get approved, they could go start grading and drainage and building up the lots, and then once done, they would have to apply for a LOMAR, which is the final dedication, they'd be able to have to then show that they did raise it up out of the floodplain. They did the things to make sure those homes don't get flooded, and then FEMA would approve that. And as part of that, that does analyze downstream impacts as well. And the predominant area south of here is open desert. There's one residential development that is on the west side of New River Wash that's part of Anthem. You can see the edge on that development here, but they will have to ensure that they're not increasing flows on that property to the south, as well as the other ones as part of that FEMA and city evaluation process.
Okay, and then I just want to put on the record that Richard Zimmerman contacted my office, and he said he was reaching out to the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the whole flooding piece. So I know how the Army Corps of Engineers operate and work and do look at land and flooding. They helped us with the Rio Salado and looked at all of that. So I just want to put it on the record that I received his message and heard him, that he would be contacting him. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing. Does any council members have comments or questions before we vote? I just wanted to, on the charter school issue, this has been a constant frustration at the city. The state legislature has said that charter schools should go where they would like to, and it's just, for so many neighborhoods across our community, we really haven't dealt with the traffic issues before they come in. And sometimes they're in locations, including one, I think, in Scottsdale at the end of a runway. Others where it is, for example, the height is not consistent with anything else in the community. And so when any of you become governor, it would be nice if we could address this, because it comes up in every corner of our city, and it is a frustration continually with these traffic issues, which I think with a little bit of design investments, we might be able to work them out and not have people start their mornings with frustration. So I don't know what the perfect solution is, but it certainly is a pain point in pretty much every corner of the community. With that, we will go to roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Pastor? Stark? Williams?
Yes.
Waring? Gallego?
Yes. 9-0. We next move to item 46, which is appeal of the Historic Preservation Commission decision, an item in Council District 4. We will begin with a staff report.
Thank you, mayors, members of council. Well, the PowerPoint gets pulled up there. This is a request where the council serves in a quasi-judicial role as opposed to your legislative hat. Because this is a certificate of appropriateness appeal regarding a historic preservation item, I put that on the record. You did receive information about that from the law department as well, but I want to make sure that that is part of the record here. So this particular request is an appeal for an overheight wall within the Willow Historic District at 333 West Coronado, shown in yellow on the aerial overhead here. In this case, the property owner applied for a permit to construct a 6-foot-high wall, solid block wall along 5th Avenue, and then along the alley here shown in the rear. Those was approved, and those walls were built to that height, but sometime after that, the height was raised along 5th Avenue, and then the height was also raised with 2 additional courses of block along the alley. As part of that, there were complaints from the residents, and the city did go out as part of non-permitted construction and had discussions with the property owner, who got them in to file the certificate of appropriateness appeal. In this case, the HP Commission did recommend that the fence that's visible along 5th Avenue be taken back down to 6 feet. That's stipulation number 1 from the HP Commission recommendation. Stipulation number 2 was to allow the overheight fence along the alley because of concerns from safety along the alley areas. That's consistent with other current projects that the HP Commission and the HP office have been working through. So they're leaving that one with an additional 2 courses a block, and then stipulation 3 is about the additional garage height, keeping it to the existing 12 feet, and then having the plans updated to show the 7-foot 4-high wall and those things, because it was all done with a 6-foot high proposal at the time. I should note for the record that the 7-foot 4-high wall along the alley does require approval of variance through a separate process to have any height over 6 feet. With that, I do have Kevin Waite here with me, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Okay, let me see if I get this right. So in July 2013, there was a request for a 6-foot wall.
Correct.
Okay, and it got approved for that.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Councilman Pastor.
And then somewhere in between, let's see, July 13th, somewhere in between 2014 and February 2017, the wall was changed.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, that's correct, yes.
And at what height?
The 6-foot high wall along 5th Avenue was raised to 6 feet 6 inches, I believe it was, and the rear one was to 7 foot 4 inches.
Just to jump in, the gate on 5th Avenue was 6 feet 6 inches. The fence was 6 feet 9 inches.
Oh, okay, so that's at 6 feet. Okay, got it. And so then it got changed. It didn't get approved by the city, didn't go through the process. So at this point, we are here today listening to the appeal.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, that is correct. The property owner has appealed the Historic Preservation Commission recommendation, which is what was outlined in these 4 stipulations here, to ask for the overheight walls to be left in place as they were built.
So if I wanted to, I got approval for a 6-foot wall, and I wanted to add additional blocks to my wall, then I would have to start the process all over again.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, the first thing that you would have to do within a historic district is seek a certificate of appropriateness to construct that type of improvement. Once it went through that process, any wall over 6 feet high does have to go through an engineering process to ensure that the blocks have appropriate rebar and those things inside them because of the taller height of the wall. And so then you would begin that part of the work through the development division within the department. And eventually, if your permit was approved for that, then you would be able to start construction on the wall.
Okay. And so basically, this wall was built illegally.
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, that is correct.
Okay. I can hear from the applicant, or I can make a motion. How would you?
I think, why don't we make a motion and then.
Okay. So I am making a motion to approve the staff recommendations and the approval of the 4 stipulations. Would you like me to read the stipulations, or I can put the Historic Preservation Committee stipulations?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, I believe just a motion to approve it per the Historic Preservation Commission, which includes those 4 stipulations, then you don't have to read them all into the record.
Okay, so I approve what Alan said. That's what I'm asking for.
Perfect.
That's my motion.
We have a motion and a second from Councilwoman Stark. And for those people who are following this with great interest, the stipulations are available on the screen. And with that, we will open the public hearing. We have 3 individuals wishing to testify, 1 opposed and 2 in favor, as well as an additional card in favor. We will start with Tom Dosher, who is opposed.
I'm Tom Dasher, Mayor and Council, and I think I need to clarify, I'm opposed to overturning the appeal.
Then all of the cards here are in agreement then. Okay. We do not have a card from Mr. Russo, but.
Okay.
Okay, well, we will hear, I guess, if it would be okay, I think traditionally we hear first from the applicant, and,
Okay.
when you're done, if you wouldn't mind filling out a card, that would be helpful, but clearly we should hear from the applicant. So,
Would you like to hear from the applicant first?
do you mind if we hear from the applicant first, and then you can respond?
Mayor Gallego and council members, I'm Susan Izzarelli, resident of 333 West Coronado, co-owner of the house. So as you can see, our residence is on a corner lot, 5th Avenue and Coronado Road. We have the alley to the south, and then we have 5th Avenue to the west. 5th Avenue is considered a collector street, which is defined by the City of Phoenix as having substantially more vehicular and pedestrian traffic than a residential street. We have 2 bedrooms and the living room, which both face 5th Avenue. These rooms, as well as the backyard, often have seen roughly several hundred, if not 1,000 vehicles drive by, and often 50 to 100 pedestrians walk by on any given day, as many of our corner lots have. Purchased in 2012, the property came with a 6-foot wall facing 5th Avenue. The wall was in disrepair, and it actually allowed for easy scaling and peering, and our home was burglarized within 1 week of us moving onto the property. Between 2012 and 2015, we had numerous incidents of transients and pedestrians peering over the 6-foot wall and also looking into our bedroom windows. In 2015, to accommodate a few home improvements, the 5th Avenue wall was taken down as it was in disrepair. We applied for a permit for the 6-foot wall, which was approved. And when the wall was initially built, it reached only 5 feet 9 inches, the new wall. The lack of 3 inches to make the wall 6 feet was problematic, given it was now actually lower than it was initially. The contractor searched the area and found 2 corner properties within 200 yards of our home, which had overheight walls facing 5th Avenue. The contractor suggested that another block would make the wall slightly overheight at 6 foot 9 inches, adding that he did not think it would be a problem since there were other properties in proximity that had similar overheight walls. Given the added privacy, the added security, and nearby properties that had walls overheight, we agreed to go ahead and have the extra block added on. This added a mere 9 inches to the approved 6-foot wall. Statistics on crime, which are readily available from Phoenix PD. Soon after our home was burglarized, we met with Phoenix Police to gather some crime statistics.
If you could give us your final thought.
I'm sorry?
I think we have hit your about a minute over.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of summarize the highlights of my presentation. Our corner house is located on a collector street in a neighborhood described by Phoenix PD as having lots of transients, trespassing, and burglaries. In fact, 2 Willow residences on corner lots were burglarized just last week. Both corner properties, one right across from us on 5th Avenue. Given the added privacy and security and other nearby properties had walls over 6 feet, we did add the block. The wall was constructed and up for several years without complaint. Those in opposition to our wall height have voiced that they don't like the looks of walls and that wall spacing don't have a prevailing pattern.
Thank you for your testimony. Tom, if you could return, thank you for your 2 trips.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Tom Dosher. I'm a member of the Willow Zoning Committee, and I'm here today to ask you not to overturn the Historic Preservation Hearing Officer's decision not to grant the permit for 333 West Coronado Road and the Historic Preservation Commission a decision to uphold this decision. The Willow Conservation Plan was adopted by the City Council in 1986, and the Willow Historic District was established in 1989. The governing board is elected volunteers and adheres to the conservation plan as adopted and historic preservation code of the city. For further clarification, the Willow Zoning Committee does not police the neighborhood to enforce city code, but will support the conservation plan and historic preservation guidelines when any of the properties in the Willow are in question. With that said, historic preservation staff determined that the wall on Fifth Avenue was over height and not permitted. The report denied granting the permit after the fact. The hearing officer upheld HP's staff decision, and Historic Preservation Commission upheld that decision. The Willow Board of Directors voted to and submitted a letter of support to the mayor for the actions of the hearing officer and the Historic Preservation Commission. Finally, it is important that strict enforcement and adherence to historic preservation codes be followed to ensure that the integrity of historic districts continue to flourish and to preserve the past for all future generations. I again ask that you not overturn the denial to issue the permit after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginger Maddox, followed by Andrew Jacobs.
Mayor and City Council members, I'm Ginger Maddox. I've been a resident of FQ Story for more than 3 decades, and one of my duties, volunteer duties, is to learn and understand city code as well as the HP guidelines. Over the last few years, we have tried to interface with our sister districts downtown so that we all coordinate with each other. When one district may have an issue, we step in to help the other districts with answers. So I am familiar with this project. There is a lot of documentation that is available. I have read through all of it. And oftentimes we come up against issues where we find that, in my opinion, people are asking for forgiveness as opposed to permission. And they wear us down because we are volunteers and we do have to be aware of what is taking place. So I feel somewhat disappointed that the property owners relied on their contractor when they advised them that this would not be a problem to add this additional course, because as it's been explained, there is a process for that. And one of the reasons for that process is to make sure that that additional height beyond 6 feet is stabilized with rebar and is not a problem. So it's unfortunate that they didn't go through the process and that they're now facing some additional construction issues that they really didn't plan on. But I would say to the City Council that when we get to this point in a process where the commission has set forth stipulations and yet the property owner wants to continue an appeal, you're our last hope, because our job is to preserve and to protect our historic districts. And when we see 1,000 cuts cutting into these regulations and guidelines, it makes it very difficult for us who volunteer to be guardians. It makes it very difficult for the planners in HP to set forth what they feel is the right thing to do when it comes to stipulations. So I would ask you not to overturn the decision of the commission. And once again, I would caution people who go beyond the guidelines that it's your duty as the property owner to go and investigate on your own, because when something like this happens, those things come out of your pocket, not your contractors.
Andrew Jacobs, followed by Robert Russo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Andrew Jacobs. I'm the next door neighbor with my wife, Shella, at 329 West Coronado Road. This is one of those rare times when a thoughtful and well-researched staff recommendation should be rejected and should have been rejected, and it was darn near rejected in front of Planning and Zoning, or the lower level below this, the HP. There was originally a 3-3 vote to allow them to do it, and then it was deadlocked, and then eventually became a 4-2 vote not to permit them to do it. There's a very good reason it was a close question, because everything you just heard is pretextual, and they're asking you to make the city of Phoenix into art police and violate the First Amendment. Now, there's no issue at all. Councilwoman Pastor, you're entirely correct. The thing's 9 inches. It's out of code. It is an illegal wall, as you put it, I believe. The question is what you do about that. And what happened here was they put it up in 2015. Nobody complained for 3 years. One of the members of this neighborhood board lives across the street from it. They never complained for 3 years. And why? Because in 2018, they painted the pretty mural on it. And that set some of the people, though not all of the people in Willow, off because they didn't like the pretty mural. And so that got on the news, and the TV was called in, and it got to be on TV, and there were camera crews, and there were complaints, and the city scheduled a meeting about whether to regulate murals, and 40 of the 50 people who spoke there, including a coalition of artists and homeowners, said, please don't do that. So, nonetheless, the neighbors who were antagonized by the mural decided to go to work by getting you to apply a facially neutral law to get rid of the mural, which is what this hearing would be the culmination of doing and is wrong and would violate the First Amendment. So the city had this public meeting, and Rob had to go to this hearing, and the first level hearing, when Rob was talking about the First Amendment right thing, the hearing officer interrupted and said blah, 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 which is all the consideration that argument received at the first level. In Planning and Zoning, Rob put into evidence, which is very important for your consideration of this as a judicial body, that there are 6 homes within Willow and 18 within 2 miles that have this offending feature. So the question isn't really whether this is 1,000 paper cuts about Willow. This is that there are 18 things just like it in a 2-mile radius, and these people have caused the city to pick this one out of 18 up out of a box and to slap it down, and to punish these people and make them spend thousands of dollars messing with their lot because they put up a mural they don't like. That's what's going on. No one's asking you to fix all 6 of the overheights in Willow, or the 18 overheights within 2 miles in the historic. That's not happening. And that's because this is a completely arbitrary and selective enforcement to punish people for their expressive rights, which is not supposed to happen. If you were doing all 18 or a lot of the 18, or they were complaining about other ones, that would be different. That's not what's in front of you. What's in front of you to decide is whether or not it is consistent with whether or not this is in fact an arbitrary instance of enforcement of the law at the bidding of these neighbors who don't like it. So that's why you should vote to go with the originally 3 and then 2 votes out of the 6 that were troubled by this. You should be troubled by this. This is not how the First Amendment works, and you shouldn't be the art police and the cat's paw of these folks. Thank you.
Robert Russo.
Thank you. I'm a co-owner of the residence. Just wanted to say that this is not asking the council to allow it or to disapprove of it. It's asking the council to let me and the co-owner go to zoning and ask for a variance. 150 other Phoenix residents have asked for a similar variance, and that's all we're asking, is to allow the experts in zoning to come by, listen to what we have to say, investigate, look at the wall and say, yes, this 9 inches isn't constructed properly, or otherwise, this 9 inches are constructed properly, and there's proper reasoning and rationale for wanting this. Public safety, privacy, and progress. This 9 inches does not detract from historical patterns. There's nearly 1,000 residences in Willow alone. Not a single one of them looks any way, shape, or form like the other. Having these 9 inches on this wall does not detract from the pattern of Willow, but it is critical, being on a collector street and on a corner, for our safety and our privacy. Don't let subjectivity get in the way of public safety. We're just asking you to say, yes, Allow them to go to zoning, have them investigate and do their job.
Thank you. Oh, that concludes our cards for today. And as noted earlier, we do have an additional card marked in favor. So we'll close the public hearing. Does any council members have comments or questions?
Alan, can you respond to Mr. Russo's comments regarding the variance?
Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Pastor, what Mr. Russo is alluding to is any height for a fence in the rear yard that's over, or any fence in the rear yard that's over 6 feet in height has to go for a variance. And so what he's asking for in this process is to get HP approval of not having impact on the historic district to then apply for the variance. So when he's saying go to let the zoning people deal with the issue, that's what he's asking for, is to go apply for the variance to then have a quasi-judicial test regarding the variance standards and whether or not the overheight fence should be allowed, which is a different test and standards than you guys are charged with looking at, which is what are the impacts on the historic district because of this proposal.
Okay. And so I have studied this back and forth, and I have read all the facts that was given to me in the staff report. I have read that there has been a process since April 2013, and there's been several appeals. There was an appeal May 2013, and then what was upheld by hearing officer's decision. Then it was appealed, the HP decision was appealed to City Council on July 3rd, 2013. That was denied in its entirety. Then there was HPDE 1300-222 to demolish the detached garage. That was denied by the Historic Preservation Officer on July 23rd, 2013. The stay of demolition expired July 22nd, 2014. Then the following HPCO 1300-224 to remove the existing 5-inch CM fence and construct the new 6-inch CM fence and install new gates. That was approved July 30th, 2013. That work was done. Then there is another item set in HP 59-15-4 for a right-of-way review for a new curb cut at Coronado Road, 16 wide at the widest part of the radius and 11 at the narrowest point adjacent to the sidewalk. That was approved June 15, 2015, and that was done. Then the following year, HPDE 1600-268 to demolish the detached garage. That was denied once again July 21st, 2016. The stay of demolition expired July 20th, 2017. Then there was another item, HPDE 1700-537 to demolish the detached garage. That was approved July 20th, 2017, and demolition was to be completed by July 20th, 2018. And now we are here today regarding the 6-inch fence wall that was approved and now is in violation because it's no longer a 6-foot wall. And so I am sticking and standing with the Historic Preservation's decision and approving the 4 stipulations. That was my motion, so.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for all the time that you put into this. Roll call.
DeCiccio? Garcia?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Williams?
Yes.
Waring? Gallego?
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. That concludes the formal business of today's council meeting. We do have Oscar Hernandez here to address the council. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, councils. My name is Oscar Hernandez, and I am living on the District 8. And I have a question. I don't know if this is the right place, but I need help. 2 months ago, I was victim of a criminal assault, and I called to the police station. They give me the phone number of one sergeant, the Sergeant Obenet, and I call 5, 10 times and give a message, but he just ignoring to me. So really I need help to know what can I do, or who is the way that I have to follow to know what happened, or just they don't have any interest to help to the people like me. Please.
Thank you. Commander Mardos, could you raise your hand? Commander Mardos will try to follow up and see if we can address that. With that, we are adjourned.